Welcome to the deep dive. We're here again to plunge into some really profound ideas, hoping to emerge with, insights that clarify things and connect them to our lives.
Good to be back.
Yeah. So today we're embarking on a journey into something pretty universal, I think. It's that quest. The quest for real happiness, trying to escape suffering.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental human drive.
We all know that feeling, right?
Uh,
Finding ourselves, like Oscar Wilde famously said, in the gutter of material life. But thankfully, he also said, some of us are looking up at the stars.
That's such a great quote. It really captures what ancient Indian philosophies have been wrestling with for thousands of years. If we feel stuck, how do we get out? And what exactly are we looking for when we look up?
Exactly. So our mission today really is to unpack some deep teachings. We're drawing from the Radhakatha talks by Bhakti Swami. We want to pull out the key insights on, suffering, liberation, this idea of divine love, and try to connect it all to your own search for meaning.
And there's a surprising twist, a kind of paradox, right at the heart of it all.
Yes, definitely aiming to reveal that. Our sources, as I mentioned, are these talks exploring the Bhagavad Gita, various schools of Indian thought, and the very unique, sometimes even controversial position of Sri Radha in Vaishnava philosophy.
It's rich material.
It really is. So let's start with that universal experience, being tangled up in duality. The Bhagavad Gita puts it so clearly, doesn't it? All living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate.
Yes, that's foundational. And these aren't just abstract concepts, right? It's the stuff of everyday life.
Yeah.
Dishonor and honor, misery and happiness.
Woman and man, good and bad.
Pleasure and pain, all of it. And this delusion, it leads us to really grab onto things like, this is my wife, this is my house.
That possessiveness.
Exactly. And ironically, that's what binds us tighter to the whole cycle of suffering. Our attempts to find security in this dualistic world just entangle us more.
And it's interesting because this isn't just one school saying this. You see it across the board, don't you? Vedic traditions, Buddhism, Jainism, there's this strong agreement.
A consensus, yeah. That this incarceration in this material world, as the source puts it, the root of it all is suffering.
It comes down to our desires, ika, and our aversion, the Vesha.
Yeah. Those two are the fuel for that endless cycle. Punarapi Janam, Punarapi Maratam.
Again and again born, again and again dying.
It's a grim picture, in a way.
It is. But the goal that arises from recognizing this is also shared, at least initially. It's mukti, liberation.
Liberation, yes. That's the common aim. But what that liberation looks like, what it actually means,
yeah.
Well, that's where the paths really start to diverge quite dramatically.
Okay, so everyone agrees, this place is suffering, I need to get out. That's the first step. Looking up from the gutter, so to speak.
Right, that initial impulse.
But where do they diverge? This is where it gets fascinating. Let's maybe touch on Buddhism first. It's described sometimes as a kind of traumatic reaction to suffering.
Yeah, that's one way to frame it. Their approach is about stopping desire itself to end suffering. That leads to nirvana.
Which literally means putting out the candle.
Exactly. And what's key about nirvana is that it isn't necessarily about finding some positive state. It's more about cessation. It's described as a state where you cannot say that it is and you cannot say that it isn't.
Wow. Hard to grasp.
It is. Think about it like, imagine experiencing something so deeply traumatic, so painful, that your most fundamental wish isn't just for the pain to stop, but for the source of the pain, the whole situation to have. Or to have never existed in the first place.
Like erasing it completely.
That deep desire for non-existence, for just putting out that flame of painful experience, it offers a kind of parallel maybe to that Buddhist aim of nirvana born from overwhelming suffering.
That really puts it into perspective, not just stopping the pain, but wishing its origin away. Okay, so how does that contrast with, say, Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya's philosophy, often called Mayavada?
Right, so Mayavada also seeks liberation, mukti, but the goal is different. It's about merging into the impersonal Brahman.
The formless divine.
Yes, a state of Satchitananda which translates to existence, consciousness, and bliss. But it's an impersonal bliss. The idea is to merge, to lose individuality in that divine consciousness.
And in doing so, avoiding.
Well, it seems like consciously sidestepping the potential pain and complexity that can come with relationships with love as we experience it materially. It's freedom through transcending individual identity and, emotional entanglement.
Okay, so cessation in Buddhism, impersonal merging in Mayavada.
Yeah.
But then you have the Vaishnava tradition. How does that fit in, or rather stand apart?
It stands quite radically apart, actually. Vaishnavism doesn't aim to extinguish emotion or merge into an undifferentiated state. Instead, it defines the ultimate goal, the highest aim, as prema,
Prema.
pure, unalloyed love for the Supreme Lord, for Krishna. This isn't just a goal. It's presented as the ultimate necessity of life.
The ultimate necessity. That's a strong claim. So if prema is the goal, how is this path of bhakti, devotional service, actually understood? What makes it distinct?
That's a crucial question. Rupa Goswami, who's a really key figure in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, lays out 5 characteristics of Sudapti, pure devotional service, in his work Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And they are quite revolutionary.
Okay, what are they?
The very first one is Klaisani. It means destruction of distress.
Destruction of distress. Okay, that sounds familiar, like what other paths aim for.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. The very thing other paths see as the ultimate goal, getting rid of suffering for bhakti, that's just the starting point. It's the first, almost preliminary benefit.
Wow, okay, hold on. That completely reframes everything, doesn't it? The end goal for many is just the beginning here. Suffering isn't the final problem to solve, just something you move past quickly.
Precisely. It suggests there's something much, much greater beyond just the absence of pain.
Okay, so that's Klaisani. What's next?
Next is Shubhata. This means all auspiciousness. It implies that engaging in bhakti naturally brings about good fortune, positive circumstances, a generally auspicious condition.
Makes sense. Things just start going right, maybe?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
But then comes the third one, and this is really paradigm shifting. Moksha lagutakrit.
Moksha lagutakrit, what does that mean?
It means it makes moksha, liberation itself, even that impersonal merging into Brahman, seem insignificant. Trivial almost.
Insignificant liberation. That's
Yeah.
bold. Considering how central moksha is to so many traditions, this is saying there's something so much better that even freedom from suffering pales in comparison.
Absolutely. It completely recontextualizes the whole spiritual quest. It's not just about getting out of the material world, but about entering into something incredibly positive and dynamic.
So what are the last two? They must be pretty amazing if they make liberation seem small.
Well, the fourth is Sandra Ananda. This promises the experience of the greatest bliss, an intense, concentrated bliss.
Okay, greatest bliss. Sounds good.
But the fifth one, Sri Krishna Akarshini, is perhaps the most astonishing. It means that pure devotion, bhakti, has the potency to attract Krishna.
Wait, attract Krishna, the Supreme Lord. How does that work? Doesn't that imply, I don't know, that bhakti is somehow greater than God?
That's exactly the paradoxical point the source makes. It is stated that bhakti is even greater than God because it has the potency to attract God.
Okay, my mind is slightly blown here. The all-attractive Supreme Person is attractive.
Yes, he is attracted by the love of his devotees. He's described, fascinatingly, as being bound by the chains of samsara vasana. Now, this isn't the usual samsara vasana, the desire for material enjoyment.
Right.
It's interpreted here as a deep-seated, eternal desire for love, for that relationship. Krishna himself tells the gopis, the cowherd girls of Vrindavan, something like, I can't repay you, your service, your love. It's beyond repayment.
So it's not that love overpowers God in a limiting way, but that God chooses to be conquered by love.
That's the understanding. It's his nature to reciprocate love, to enter into these loving exchanges. It's a voluntary defeat, if you will.
It reminds me of that story, William Gladstone, the British Prime Minister,
Right.
really stern, powerful figure.
Mm-hmm.
An aide supposedly found him once down on his hands and knees pretending to be a horse for his little grandson. The Prime Minister, utterly captivated by this child's love.
That's a great analogy. Power, status. It all just dissolves in that moment of pure affection. As the source says, in the love equation, there's no solution based on logic or status. Love operates differently.
It really does. Okay, so this brings us squarely to the figure who embodies this highest love, doesn't it?
Indeed. It brings us to Srimati Radharani.
Right.
She's introduced as the source of all prema.
The source of that pure love?
Yes. She's Krishna's eternal counterpart, his other half in a sense. They're described as being fundamentally one entity, expressing divine love in 2 forms. She's glorified as the leader in Vrindavan. Her love is the pinnacle.
And Vrindavan itself. You mentioned paradoxes. The source material paints a picture quite different from, say, Vaikuntha, Krishna's more orderly, opulent abode.
Oh, completely different. Vaikuntha is predictably blissful, full of awe and reverence. Vrindavan, on the other hand, is described as a place of chaos of love.
Chaos of love.
Full of apparent pain and difficulty and suffering. But here's the paradox again. The bliss is suffering. Everything there operates on this paradoxical level.
Like Krishna himself, the epitome of morality is Rama, but then in Vrindavan, depicted as, well, the source says the most immoral person, breaking rules, stealing butter.
Exactly. It challenges all our conventional notions. And this relates directly to the nature of Radha and Krishna's love.
Which is described as Parakya Bhava.
Yes, Parakya Bhava. This refers to their relationship being like that of lovers who aren't married, an unmarried, lawless love.
Lawless. That sounds risky.
It is, and that's part of the intensity. It's full of hassles, secrecy, danger at every step, always trying to meet overcoming obstacles. It's intensely exciting.
Which contrasts sharply with the established, perhaps more peaceful, marital relationship, like Krishna's relationship with his queens in Dwaraka or Vaikuntha's mood.
Right. The source contrasts it with the perceived boring nature of conventional, settled love sometimes. There's that anecdote mentioned, maybe apocryphal, of a woman wanting a divorce because her husband was just too nice.
Huh. Too nice. Lacked phenetizing.
Exactly. No conifizing. Vrindavan's love is all about that vingalizing, that constant dynamic tension, the drama of separation and meeting. It's why Krishna, even surrounded by his queens in Dwarka, is said to cry out Radha's name in his sleep. That parakya intensity remains the highest point.
So this constant tension, this apparent immorality, how does that square with Radha being the embodiment of purity? She's even described as sometimes chastising Krishna, appearing like a loose woman by worldly standards.
Another profound paradox. How can the source of all prema, the highest devotee, appear to break conventional rules? It challenges our material definitions of purity.
How do the teachings reconcile this? Is there a story or something that illustrates it?
There's a beautiful, fairy-telling story. Once, Krishna pretended to be sick, terribly sick. The only cure, the physician said, was water from the Yamuna River, brought by a completely chaste woman, but carried in a pot full of holes.
A pot full of holes? How could anyone?
Exactly. So various respectable women tried. Jatila, Kutila figures known for upholding social norms. They'd be a bit proud of their chastity. They filled the pot, but of course the water just poured out through the holes. They failed.
Okay.
Then Radha came. She took the pot, filled it, and walked back to Krishna, the pot remaining full. The water didn't leak.
How? Why?
Because, the explanation goes, her mind was so completely one-pointedly absorbed in thinking only of Krishna, serving Krishna, loving Krishna, that she didn't even perceive the holes. Her devotion was so absolute, so pure, it transcended the physical limitation. It proves her chastity. Her purity was on a completely different level, defined not by external rules, but by the singular focus of her heart on Krishna. She thinks of no one else.
Wow. That's powerful. Purity defined by devotion, not just conduct.
It redefines purity completely.
But this leads to what the source calls a very dangerous truth. This whole topic of Radhakatha.
Yes, it's considered the highest, most confidential truth, but also dangerous because it's so easily misunderstood, misused.
Misunderstood how? Like people thinking Krishna is just some...
Sex god, exactly.
Yeah.
Focusing on the external aspects without understanding the transcendental nature of this love, it can seem blasphemous if taken materially.
So this creates a real dilemma for the teachers, the acharyas, doesn't it? Preach this highest truth and risk people misusing it, or keep it hidden and risk losing its profound meaning?
A huge dilemma. And
Yeah.
you see different approaches. Jiva Goswami, for instance, a major acharya, actually took steps in his writings to present Radha and Krishna as being married.
Even though other texts describe the parakya unmarried aspect.
Yes. It seems it was a conscious decision to protect the teaching from gross misunderstanding by the general public at the time. He wanted to make it more palatable, less open to immediate misinterpretation.
And Srila Prabhupada, who brought these teachings west.
He also gave it very cautiously. He established the foundational principles of Bhakti first, emphasizing regulation, chanting, service, and only gradually introduced these more intimate, potentially confusing topics of Radha and Krishna's pastimes as people became more qualified to understand them spiritually.
So it requires a certain level of spiritual maturity to even approach this.
Definitely. Because, at the end of the day, this divine love, it's indescribable in words, inconceivable by the mind.
Our usual tools don't work.
Our traditional philosophy toolkit, epistemology, ontology, logic, ethics, it won't work here, as the source says. It can point the way, perhaps, create an intuitive sense that there is something higher, but it can't fully capture or explain this reality.
It's beyond intellectual grasp.
It seems so. It requires purification of the heart, developing that bhakti itself.
So for those following this path, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, what is the ultimate aspiration then related to all this?
The ultimate aim, the cherished goal, is to eventually serve Radha and Krishna in their eternal pastimes, to enter into that realm of divine love.
And that requires...
It requires transcending our own deep-rooted material desires, our samsara vasana, to even begin to grasp the profound nature of jugal purity, that unique, dynamic, paradoxical love between Radha and Krishna.
It's quite a journey. From the gutter past the stars to this realm of paradoxical love.
Indeed.
Okay, so let's try to wrap up this deep dive. We started down in that common gutter of material suffering, right? And we looked at different paths trying to get out: Buddhism seeking cessation, Mayavada aiming for impersonal bliss.
Different escape routes.
And then we arrived at this Vaishnava path, specifically the Gaudiya understanding, presenting a totally different goal. Prema, pure divine love, a path described as revolutionary, even making liberation seem small.
Centered on Bhakti, devotional service, that attracts even the supreme.
Leading us to Vrindavan, the land of paradox, where love is chaotic, intense, involving apparent suffering, yet that suffering itself is considered bliss, embodied in the relationship of Radha and Krishna.
A relationship beyond conventional logic and morality, requiring a cautious approach to understand, yet holding the key to the highest reality.
So we've covered a lot of ground. Let's leave our listeners with something to really chew on.
Okay. Well, the source material hits us with this incredible statement about Vrindavan. The suffering of love is more than the bodily suffering. But that suffering is bliss.
Suffering is bliss. That's the core paradox, isn't it?
It really is. So the question for you, the listener, might be, what is this extraordinary idea that the deepest bliss might be found not in avoiding suffering, but within a certain kind of intense, loving suffering? What does that mean for your understanding of love, of joy, of maybe the ultimate purpose of existence?
Yeah, how might contemplating this unpredictable, sometimes chaotic, yet supremely blissful love of Vrindavan challenge, or maybe reshape your own pursuit of fulfillment? Especially in a world that often tells us to seek stability, predictability, and control above all else.
Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for that deep dive.
Thank you.